1986. Halley's Comet, that's the year of Halley's Comet. It was extraterrestrial, or it was something the government was doing. It was perfectly clear. It was clear. The sky down there is like diamonds. I didn't want to be the only one that saw the damn thing. I wanted other people. Well, pretty soon, everybody was out there, you know. And everybody said, what the hell's that? What is that? I don't know. It's right here. If anything like that ever happens to you, I guarantee you'd never forget it. Not the slightest detail of it would you ever forget. Because we were trying to find a logical explanation for something that was illogical. So this incident happened in 1986, and I was in Bath County, Virginia, to deer hunt. And there was about 20 people in the camp, some staying in the cabin, most of us in campers, one redone school bus, a couple of tents, just, you know, all manners of things all clustered around the cabin where there was a well and electricity. So, well, the first day of deer season, I'd already been up on the mountain the day before and the day before that. So I was up got up, dressed, drank coffee, ate. So I was getting ready. I was in a camper talking to another guy and his son, and they were doing breakfast, and I was just drinking coffee and waiting for about the right time for me to climb the mountain, which took an hour and 45 minutes to climb to the top of the ridge. So when I left their camper, I only had to walk maybe 45 yards or so. And there was a creek there, a big whitewater, real fast water creek, but there was hardly any water in it, so any problem walking across it, you know, with hunting boots. So about the time I got to the creek, I look up and I see this big moon, looks like a big harvest full moon. But deer hunters are always particular about the moon because the moon has a great influence on how deer act. And we were just talking the night before about it being the dark of the moon, so there was no moon. So I'm looking up and I'm seeing this, and it's about 3 miles away on the top of a mountain ridge called Little Mountain, which runs about 15 miles from US 39 back in towards West Virginia. So when I first saw this thing, it was at about even with the top of Little Mountain Ridge, which is one of the places I would occasionally hunt back to. So I'm watching it, and it's coming towards me. I'm seeing it's moving towards where we are, our camp. And in about 15 seconds, probably no more than that, it was over me. And as it came, it got bigger. It kept expanding. And this was the color of a dull green, like a lightning bug that had just lit himself and then went off, and he was back to the soft green. That's the color that it was. And in 15 seconds, it was over me, and it was, I thought, maybe at the most 100 feet above me, 30 yards. I mean, it was just right there. And I instinctively, I had a single shot 30-06 rifle. So I took the rifle and dropped the breech block open. I was going to load a shell in it, and then I thought, no, that's pointless. So I closed it, put it back on my shoulder, and this thing's over me. It's making no sound, no movement, Don't see anything except a soft, fuzzy oval. It had no edges on it. It had no corners. It was round. And it was enormous. This thing had to be, oh Lord, a quarter of a mile wide and probably about a quarter of a mile long, too. You know, width. Both ways, it would have been about a quarter of a mile, I would guess. Don't know how thick, because when I saw it, it was coming at me this way. When it was over me, it was like this way. I guess like if you had a plate coming at you, 90 degrees vertical, well, then when it got to you, it turned up flat. That's the way it seemed to me to look at. So I'm standing here looking at this, and then by that time, I started hollering for the guys that I just left their camper because I knew they were up. But there were other guys who were up in their campers too, but I started hollering at Doug and Robbie because I just left them. I knew they were up. So as I was hollering for them, I look and here comes two orange ones. And I say orange, but now they were like reddish orange, as much red as orange. You'd think orange when you look at it, but as much red as it is orange. And these were only about half the size of the first one. And they came from the same place, Little Mountain Ridge. They came this way. Well, they got about halfway to me, which was still like a mile and a half away, up the big holler called Davis Holler. Big holler, we went up it all the time. One of them exploded, the other one exploded, and the drops went out like this. There was no sound, no flash, no light, and it looked like if you had a bucket of dark reddish orange paint and you dropped a big rock in it and it splashed out, that's what it looked like, only it was up in the sky. And both of them, one was right after the other one. So after that happened, they continued to come on. But instead of coming where I was, about a quarter of a mile away, at about where the big hollow ended, there was a big valley in the field there. They turned, made a 90-degree turn, and started going northeast up this ridge. They were going up a point, which we climbed up all the time. So they were going up that. So the big one above me, it retreats slowly, goes this way back to where they were, then it turns and follows them. And by the time it got over there, it looked like it was maybe 50 feet circle. Got a lot smaller, but not nearly as small as the orange one. So they continued to go up the mountain. Well, by that time, there's like 5, 6 people out. So they didn't see any of this first part that I just described. They didn't see any of that. But when they all come out, they could all look and see them then. You know, they're all right over there. So we were talking with you. What do you see them? What's it look like to you? Well, I don't know. It looks like a, you know, so we were discussing amongst ourselves, trying to figure out if we were seeing the same thing or was I nuts or, you know, what. So they keep going, and the sky was full of stars, but no moon. So they're going up, and they get up in the sky. I mean, I'm talking way up now. I'm talking above airplane flight, or what your normal airplane flight would be. And as they were going away, they weren't going real fast now. This is something that was fairly slow and controlled. And as after about 7 or 8 minutes, we're all talking, we're still seeing them. They're still going downrange, northeast. They begin to show light from the back of them, like a ray of a flashlight, but there's no light on it that you can see where it came from. Only see the light. And all 3 of them did it. The 2 smaller ones, smaller. The large one, larger. It was still behind, the two orange ones were in front. And by that time, you could no longer discern orange, as you couldn't see that. But you could see something there because of the light coming out. It was more dark, no orange that you could see. But the green one was still green. And it had a larger V of light coming out the back of it. But we were looking right at the back of it, and there was no light source, you know. So that can't be, but it was. You know, some of this stuff I saw can't be. Physics says that can't be, but it was because I saw it, and 15 of us saw it. Well, finally, I told them, I said, boys, it's going to take me forever to get up a mountain. I'm going to go ahead and start. So I crossed the creek, and I climbed over to a point, and I started climbing this mountain. So 20 minutes later, at least 20 minutes, I could still see them in the northeastern sky, and they were what I would have assumed would have been thousands of miles downrange at that point. But that's just guesstimation because I don't know. But anyway, finally, another 7 or 8 minutes, they were out of sight. But they were visible for 35 minutes at least 35 minutes, and to a bunch of people, you know. So we discussed it, and we talked. So we assumed when we came back in that there'd be something on the news, we'd find out what it was. Well, we come in, guys at the tech station said, well, yeah, there's a lot of people talking about seeing some of this stuff in the sky this morning. But somebody said it might be some kind of a government test, so that's all we ever heard of it. So I was there for a week, so we watched and waited and watched every newscast trying to figure out, and they mentioned it on the newscast a couple of 3 times. But as far as any part of it, or getting any kind of explanation about what it was, never got any. And I always regretted if I'd known back then, like now, that there was an organization that you could call and report and give them your story, and they could tell you about, well, we got this from 25 other people down there in that county, So I always regretted not doing that or following up more on it. And I've thought about it something close, I guess about 1 million times, I'd say, since then, but never have I ever satisfied myself as to exactly what it was or why it looked like it did, and how it acted like what it did. It did a couple of things that physics says can't be. It was a one-time thing, and I thought it whenever I think back about it, it's like replaying a movie. I could see it, every bit of it, exactly as I saw it. It never changed. I could see it exactly as I saw it.
What would you say to somebody who says, I don't believe you, there's no way that's true?
Well, in that case, you just have to make allowances for fools. You just have to. But I don't suffer fools easily, but you just have to make allowance for them because I saw what I saw, and but it wasn't just me. It was 15 other people saw. So